Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, and much more magical than this, there lived a maiden who had a reputation of making the most beautiful costumes. Well, it wasn't before long until the king got ear of such a maiden, and right away he sent for her. Sure enough, she was brought to the castle, swooped up to the highest tower, and a man there gave her a pile of fabric and said, "We require this costume by morning, or else." Shut the door, and he was gone. Oh my goodness, this is so stressful, the maiden thought. I can't make an entire beautiful costume overnight, especially because in all that haste, I grabbed a few things from my home and my village, but I forgot the most important thing of all. I don't have my glasses. I can't make a costume without my glasses. She would never be able to see the tiny hole in the needle to thread the needle, or the stitches of the fabric as she put it through the machine. She was blind as a bat, and she had no idea what to do. Well, she hoped and she paced back and forth until finally she just took a deep breath and said, "Whew, I'm just gonna try." So she got her scraps of fabric and she started to cut them and put them together. And as the sun set in the sky, she knew that she just wouldn't have enough time. But as the sun faded and the very last drops of sunlight left the air, whoof, who should appear but a man, a very odd man, a very tall man. And as she was taken aback, he said, "Don't worry, my dear, I don't mean to meddle, but I am a friend who can peddle. Your scraps I'll turn into gold." And the maiden said, "Well, not real gold, right? That sounds very heavy and not great for a costume." And the tall man was said, no, not real gold. It's just like a way of saying it's gonna be a really cool costume. She was like, "That sounds amazing. Yes, please. But," the tall man said, "there's one condition." She said, "What's that?" He said, "You must give me something in return." She said, "Well, I haven't even brought that many things. I barely had time to grace it." But I know that one of the things you brought with you were a set of 3 wands. And the maiden said, "Oh, those are very near and dear to me. I don't think I can part with those." He said, "Yes, but you must, because you must have a costume by morning." And the maiden thought, "Yes, I just can't do this on my own. All right, you can have my wands." "Ha ha!" said the tall man. "Very good." He snatched up the wands, shoved them in his pouch, and away he went. With his big tall legs, he worked that sewing machine faster than anyone ever had. The speed of light, amazing speed, making it a beautiful costume along the way. And the maiden was very impressed with his talent. She watched and she studied, but before long, the whirring sound of the sewing machine lulled her to sleep, and she found herself fading asleep on the concrete floor. Oh, the stone was so nice and cold as she drifted. In the morning, she woke up. She opened her eyes and she looked around, only to remember that she was locked in the highest tower in all of the castle. "Oh no, I'm still here. I thought it was a dream," she said. "Dang it." But the good news is, what was there on the chair but a beautiful costume, the most beautiful costume she had ever seen. "Oh, thank goodness, I'm saved," she thought. And just then, rat-a-tat-tat on the door, and a squeak as the door opened, and the guard stood there. He said, "Do you have a costume for me?" She said, "Yes, I do, absolutely." And she shoved the costume in his hands, and then he shoved a bigger scrap pile of fabric into hers. He said, "Great, we're gonna need another costume by morning. Thank you," and slammed the door in her face. Oh my gosh, she said, "This is the most stressful thing I have ever been through in my entire life. I don't know how I'm gonna do this." Okay, Well, what can I do? I hope the tall man shows up, but for now I'll just try my best. So she did. She squinted at the fabric hard as she could, and she tried to snip it with her scissors, and she tried, and as the last rays of light faded from the sky, who should appear but poof, the tall man. He had returned to help her. "Oh, thank goodness you're here," she said. "This guy wants another costume by morning." Sure enough, the tall man said, "I don't mean to meddle, but I am a friend who can peddle. Your scraps I'll turn into gold." She said, "Excellent, thank you so much." He said, "But remember, I need something in return." She said, "What can I give you? I'll give you, what do you want?" And he said, "I noticed that you always carry a very nice ring with you wherever you go." She said, "Oh my gosh, no, that's a family heirloom. I can't part with that." He said, "Ah, yes, but you must, because you see you need a costume by morning." She said, "Oh, again, you are correct." So, begrudgingly, she handed him her favorite ring. Boop! He popped into action and with his nice tall legs, he ran that sewing machine faster than anyone ever had before, and he made most beautiful costumes. But sure enough, before long, the maiden tried to stay awake, but she couldn't, and she drifted off to sleep on the floor next to him. Stretch! She stretched and opened her eyes the next morning, and oh man, I'm still in this tower. I can't believe this is happening. How do I get out of this place? But wait, she looked around, and yes, there on the chair, another beautiful costume. This one bigger and shinier and more amazing than the one before. And just as she went to look at it and admire it, on the door, and squeak, "Good morning. Do you have a costume for me?" She said, "Yes, I do. I have another costume here." And she picked up the costume from the chair and she handed it to the man. And sure enough, the man handed her back another, even bigger pile of scrap fabric. It was so big, it took up all of her arms to hold it. And it was very, very heavy. She thought, "Oh my goodness." I said, "Yeah, we're gonna need another costume. Thank you." And shut the door. Oh, my goodness, this is impossible. There's no way I can do this. But maybe if I have help. And so she waited, and she paced back and forth. She said, "I know he's going to show up. I know he's going to show up." And sure enough, as the last bits of light faded from the sky, poof, who should appear but the tall man. She said, "Great, you're here." She shoved the pile of fabric in his hand and said, "Let's get going." He said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't mean to meddle. I'm a friend who can peddle your scraps. I'll turn into gold." And she was like, He was like, "Yeah, go." She was great. However, she was like, "Oh yeah." He said, "I'm gonna need something for me." And she said, "I don't have anything left. I just have the clothes I brought and that other stuff you already took. I don't have anything left." He said, "All right. How about instead of taking something, I get to boop you on the head as hard as I can with a big, sharp, pointy stick." She's like, "No, no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." He was like, "Oh, come on, really, come on, please." And she was like, "No, I'm not, is that really what you want?" And he was like, okay. How about this? Either I make this costume for you, and I get to boop you on the head with a big, sharp, pointy stick, or I won't boop you on the head with a sharp, pointy stick if you can guess my name." The maiden thought, and she said, I don't know. You never said your name. I never asked. It's a little rude. Time has passed. Once you know somebody for so long, it's a little rude to ask their name." He said, don't worry, I'll give you until morning. And so he scooped up the fabric and he pedaled in, he pedaled in, he pedaled as fast as he could. And she tried and she paced back and forth and she thought and she thought and she thought. But the whirring of the sewing machine was so lulling and so constant that eventually she lay down on the ground and she couldn't help but fall asleep. She rubbed her eyes and she opened them up to see the sun, and he was still there. The tall man was still there, and he said, it's time. There's your costume. Can I boop you on the head? And she said, whoa. Okay. I got this. She said, you won't boop me on the head if I can guess your name, right? He said, yes, you get 3 tries. And so she said, all right. So she looked at him. She looked him up and down, and she said, guess number 1, crinkle shirt. And he said, and he laughed and he laughed. He said, no, that's a dumb name. Nobody would name their kid Crinkle Shirt. Try again. She said, okay. CrumpleDoublet. He's like, oh, and he laughed even harder. He slapped his knee. He jumped around. He said, no, that's a silly name. I would never be able to go out in public if my name was CrumpleDoublet. You have 1 more try, or I get to boop you on the head with a sharp, pointy stick. She was like, okay. So, deep breaths. She looked him up and down 1 more time. Until finally she said, aha! I know what your name is. Your name is Rumplestiltpants. Oh! The tall man's face was shocked. His jaw went very long, his eyes went very wide. So, what? Yes, it is. How would you know that? And he was so angry, and he was stomping around, and he was throwing his arms in the air. He's like, I'm so mad, I just really wanted to hit you in the head with a sharp pointy stick. And just as he was ranting and raving and jumping around, what should the maiden hear but rat-tat-tat at the door, and a squeak. And she turned, expecting to see the guard again, but it wasn't the guard. It was a very well-dressed, very tall man indeed. Not as tall as old Rumplestiltpants, but a mountain of a man. He carried himself with an air of regalness, and in that moment, the maiden knew who that man was too. That was the king. So, as soon as she saw him, she threw herself on the ground and she said, oh, my king, please, I did my best. I got help from this weird guy. Please don't kill me. Please don't lock me in the tower forever. I really tried. If I just had my blah, 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 blah. And the man said, whoa, what's going on here? And with that, he turned his head slowly and said, Rumplestiltpants, have you been playing tricks again? And old Rumpelstilty, he puffed his head and he crossed his arms and he said, yeah, and I almost got away with it too. And the king said, don't you worry, my dear maiden. Rumpelstiltpants works for me. I've come up here to thank you for the wonderful work you've been doing making these costumes. And the maiden said, what do you mean? You locked me in this tower. I had no choice. To which the king looked very confused. And he said, no one's locked you in this tower. This is the nicest Airbnb we have in the entire kingdom. We gave you the highest loft so that you could look out the window and admire the beauty and majesty of the court. This door's been unlocked the entire time. Have you not left? Where have you been going to the bathroom? To which the maiden was a little embarrassed, but it is oldie times, and there was a chamber pot, so she didn't feel that bad. But she looked around, and she did notice there was a really nice bed in the corner. And then she looked around, and she really noticed that dusty old tapestry actually was a very nice television equipped with Netflix. And she did a little of this, and she looked back and forth, and she realized that she was, in fact, in a very nice space. But in her frantic nature, she hadn't bothered to notice. She said, "But wait, you took my stuff. Rumplestiltpants, can he get my stuff back?" And the king said, "You mean your wands and your ring?" She said, "Yes, my stuff. Yeah, those are very dear to me." And the king said, "Well, let me explain. I think I should explain. You see, ruling the kingdom is very difficult and very stressful. And in recent years, I've realized that what I think is really better for me, what I want to do with my life, is go on the road as a traveling circus performer." And they said, "Huh?" He said, "Yes, you see, I noticed that you had some sort of juggling equipment with you. And so I took your wands and I took your ring and I put little sparks on them so that we could light them on fire. Don't you think that would be amazing? Don't you think the crowds would love it if we stacked on top of each other and you juggled your wands and you spun your ring? Oh, wouldn't they make such noise?" She said, "Yeah, that'd be fun. Wait, he was gonna hit me in the head with a sharp pointy stick." And Rumpelstiltskin went, "Yeah." And the king went, "No, no, 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 no. That sharp pointy stick he's talking about is my juggling log. I'm so excited to show you what I can do juggling the log on my feet. It's amazing. I've been practicing so hard. The costumes I asked you to make are for us. I want to go on the road with you and old Rumplestiltpants, and we can be a team and we can travel the world together and we can tell jokes and throw fire and people will love it. What do you say?" And the maiden, confused but optimistic, said, "Yes. Yes. Do you know what? This has been a wacky experience, and I would love to do nothing more than to get out of this room, get as far out of this room as I can, and travel and see what's beyond the kingdom, and go and travel the world and entertain audiences with you." And so with that strange and unlikely tale, old Rumpelstiltspants, the maiden, and the king become best of friends. And to this day, if you listen very closely through the trees, you can almost smell the turkey legs and hear the sound of applause and the signs, "Sharp Eyes" and "Stupid Humans." And that is the tale of Rumpelstiltspants. The